Good day, good day, good day, and welcome to the Impact Investing Show with your host, Samuel. IcanWin. Guys, I hope you're ready for today's episode 69. If you haven't hit that share button already, you know what to do. If you haven't hit that like button already, you know what to do. We are going to be sharing an immense amounts of value in today's show. And guys, today is 69. How did we get here? So guys, for those of you who are brand new to the channel, this is just to let you know that this is the property investment YouTube channel where you get creative property investment on demand. So if you're looking at new ways to invest in property, if you're looking at non-traditional routes in order for you to invest in property, then this is the place to be. Now, before we deep dive into today's episode, let me just quickly share with you guys some of the things we've covered in some of our previous episodes to get you guys really tuned in and keyed in, especially if you're new to some of the content that you may have missed. And if you're someone who's been here before, let me know in the chat by writing the acronym BHB for been here before. And again, if you're brand new to the stream, all you need to do is write the word new in the chat, and me and everyone else in the stream will be able to welcome you in the chat. Now, what have we covered in some of the last few weeks? Well, on episode 67, which was 2 episodes ago, not last episode, but the episode before that, we spoke about the income surfing strategy. Okay, the income surfing strategy, a very powerful strategy which not enough people use as it pertains to property investment. And what I did in episode 67 is I broke down to you not only what the income surfing strategy was, not only how it's defined, but also how you can go out and start to use the income surfing strategy to get more deals, to make more money from property, and to change your generational tree, which is all exactly what we're about on the channel. Now, after episode 67, episode 68, so last week's episode specifically, okay, I spoke about the simple, yes, I'm going to say it again, the simple secret about investing, the simple secret about investing that not enough people talk about, the simple secret about investing that not enough people are aware about, the simple secret about property investing, which you need to know. And because of that, that's why we had episode 68 last week. So if you were not tuned in to episode 68, I want to encourage you to go and watch that straight after this live stream. Now, guys, let me tell you something. Today's episode, episode 69, we have so much value jam-packed and ready to go for you. I hope you've got your notepad, your iPad, your pen, your stylus. You've got all of your artillery and resources ready to go in order for us to move forward on tonight's episode. Now, let me also add this. Episode 65, okay, for those of you who are with us on episode 65, rocking with us at that time in your property investing journey, we spoke about the next generation of property investing success. Now, let me say this to you. I personally think episode 65 was one of our strongest episodes out of all 69 episodes we've had to date. Episode 65, I did not only speak about what the next generation are learning from us as it pertains to property, but I went further to speak about what we can learn from the next generation as it pertains to property. So, episode 65, episode 67, and episode 68, 3 power-packed episodes of our live show that you can go and tune into straight after today's show. Now, to get today's show started off, I'm going to ask you a question for the first time. You know, so many times on these live shows, you guys ask me questions. You ask me a myriad of questions. Samuel, how do I do this in property? How do I do that in property? Which we will go on to speak about later on in today's show. But in today's show, I want to ask you a question. And that question is a very simple question. Okay, it's a question that for so many people they've not necessarily thought about, for so many people they've not necessarily engaged in. But again, as it pertains to property, it's a question also that many people might not even realize has anything to do with property. And maybe it's for that reason that I've said to myself today, you know what, Samuel, ask the guys this specific question. So I'm going to be asking you this question today. And the question very simply is, what is your favorite number? Now, this question is going to have some relevance later on as we come back onto the show and readdress this, because in today's show, what we're talking about is the 3 big, not 1, not 2, but 3 big property myths which are losing you money and where you actually learn them from. That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. So what I want you to do is start off today's show by letting me know in the chat, those of you who are with me live, let me know in the chat, what is your favorite number? What is your favorite number? Now, we're going to add to that question because I don't want that to be on its own, okay? It's not just about what is your favorite number. I'd also like to find out from you another thing with your favorite number. And that is, why? What is your favorite number and why? I'm very interested in knowing what your favorite number is. Now, you might think this has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about on tonight's show. Let me assure you, we are going to come back to this point of your favorite number later on in the show. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, grace us with your presence in the live chat by writing the word new. And secondarily with that, if you're someone who's been here before, let us know in the chat by writing BHB. And the question for you guys today as a viewer, okay, viewers get questions today. The question for you guys as a viewer today on today's show is, what is your favorite number and why? I'd love to see that in the chat. What is your favorite number and why? And if you guys are a little bit shy because I'm asking why, then you might say, Samuel, tell us what's your favorite number. Let me know in the chat if you want me to start off by giving you guys my favorite number. All you need to do is write in the chat the word start, and I will start by giving you guys my favorite number and explaining to you why. Okay, so that's what we're going to be starting off with in today's show. What is your favorite number and why? Now, whilst you guys are figuring out how to let us know what your favorite number is and why, what I want to encourage every single person to do is not to forget to write hi in the live chat. Okay, one of the benefits of having a live show is we are here together. Wherever you are in the ecosystem of this world, wherever I am in the ecosystem of this world, we can connect and we can speak and we can share. And I've got Chantel in the chat. She says her favorite number is 8. Thank you, Chantel, for letting us know. And she also says, hi Chantel, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. If it's your first time, Chantel, let us know by writing the word new in the chat, and then myself and other people who are in the chat can also greet you as well. So Chantel, thank you for gracing us and being the first person off the blocks to let us know what your favorite number is. So guys, again, if you're tuned in and you haven't let me know what's your favorite number and why. But side by side with that, not only is it going to be great if you guys say hi in the chat, what I also want to encourage you to do, this is a very simple thing. If at any stage throughout this show you get value, if at any stage throughout this show you learn something, if at any stage throughout this show you take something away that you did not expect to take away, what I want you to do is hit the like button, comment something, just let me know, Samuel, what you just said was so powerful, I never saw it like that. And then side by side with that, why don't you consider subscribing to our channel? Because as I mentioned, this is the place where you get creative property investing on demand. And we're an environment where we're going to help you go further, faster in your property investing journey. Yes, I said it and I'll say it again. This is an environment where you will go further, faster according to your property investing trajectory. So we want to do that with you. So guys, that's the key question for today's show. What is your favorite number and why? We've got comments coming through, so guys, don't be shy. Let us know in the chat what's your favorite number and why. So if you just tuned in, let us know in the live chat what is your favorite number and why. I've got comments coming through already. Let me load these up. Let me share this with the community so you guys can see what I'm seeing. We've got Chantel in the chat. Chantel says her favorite number is the number 8. Chantel goes on to say 8 because it's an even number that's brought her luck before. Awesome, absolutely awesome. Chantel, thank you for sharing. And guys, for those of you viewers who are tuned in and haven't written your answer in yet, let us know what is your favorite number and why. Now, just a quick mention, what I want to do is I want to give a great big shout out to everyone who's in the live chat, but side by side with all of you guys who are in the live chat, everyone who's ever hit subscribe, everybody who's ever hit like in the past, everyone who's ever commented on our videos. Guys, you may not understand this, but the engagement that you guys engage with in our community and in this live stream and the live streams that we do on a week-to-week basis, what you're actually doing is you're allowing YouTube to say this content is of value to other people. And the moment you allow YouTube to recognize that this content is of value to other people, YouTube then shares this with other people who need this. And let me say this to you, some of those people might need this more than you need it. All right, you might not be thinking that. You might think, well, you know what? I like this content. This is good for me. I learn more about property investing. Samuel helps me understand about creative property investing, but no one else needs this. Let me assure you that there may be someone out there who needs this more than you need this. So I want to encourage you to hit that share button, share this content. So a great big shout out to all of the people who've ever donated to the channel, all of the people who've ever connected to the channel, who are, you know, etc, etc. And for those of you who want to do any of that, links in the description. You can jump into the description to see our link for donations, see our link for questions, see our link for every single thing. So questions from those who've donated during the show. Now, we've slightly changed our format on the show in terms of how we're doing Q&A, okay? So if you're someone who's got a specific property question, what we'd love for you to do is choose a platform, Facebook or Instagram, any platform that you're on and you're active, share this video and at our channel. As long as you at Impact Properties London on Instagram, or you at us on Facebook, what that will allow us to do is then to private message you, and we are allowed to private message you the moment you've messaged or you've tagged us, and that allows us to now take your question, and not only take your question but also connect with you further. So if you're interested in asking a specific question, feel free to just let us know in the chat by symbolizing your question with a $sign before your question. As long as you've shared this video and you've added us, we will know that you have shared the contribution, you've paid it forward, and we will connect with you there. And also, those of you who donate to the channel, as you know, your questions are popped to the top. Now, today's show. Are we ready for today's show, guys? Let me know in the chat if we're ready for today's show. I need to see I'm ready. If I can see I'm ready, then I will definitely load us up for today's show. Let me see if you're ready for today's show with the I'm ready in the chat. As you can see, I've got my drink in hand. I am ready. Let me know, guys, if you are ready. Let me see I'm ready in the chat, and we will jump straight into today's show talking about the 3 big property myths and where you learn them. These 3 big property myths that are keeping people poor, that are helping people lose money, and where they actually learned them. Let me see the I'm ready's in the chat, guys. Okay. Chantel again fires up first with I'm ready. So without further ado, let's jump in without further ado into the show. Guys, we've got a slight technical, which is going to take us 2 seconds to fix. So give me 1 moment and we will be right back. Okay, guys, my largest apologies. We had a little issue which we had to sort out really speedily, but as I've mentioned, I am right back. Now, without further ado, let's jump straight into today's show. We're speaking today about the big 3 property myths which are helping people, and I'm going to say that, helping people to lose money. But not only are these 3 big property myths helping people to lose money, they're also doing something very interesting as well that many people don't recognize. So what I'm going to be doing in today's show is not only alluding to and exposing what these 3 big property myths are, which many people are allowing them to lose money, but side by side with that, I'm also going to be sharing with you in today's episode one other thing. I'm going to be sharing with you where you actually learn these particular myths. Now, one of the big problems is many people don't realize where they pick up the baggage that they live with. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time because I want you to understand this. Okay, many people do not realize where they pick up the baggage that they travel with. And by virtue of the fact that many people do not realize where they pick up that baggage from, what generally tends to happen is they continue to carry the baggage because they don't realize, oh, I don't actually need that. That's actually not relevant for me. That's actually something that means nothing to me. That's something that I shouldn't even be traveling with. So in today's episode 69 of the Impact Show, as we break down these 3 myths which are helping people lose money in their property business, we're also going to be sharing with you where you actually pick these up from. Now, to get us started, okay, I'm going to start by defining the word myth, because I want you guys to know exactly what I mean when I'm talking about a myth, okay? And I'm going to give you two definitions. These are definitions you can pick up from Google. Just Google the word myth and you will be able to effectively read along with me. I want you guys to know exactly what I'm talking about. And straight after I define this word myth, I'm going to go straight into the first myth and help you guys understand how people are being led astray by these free property myths, which are helping these people to lose money, but not only losing money, which are keeping these people away from real property success. So let's go. The word myth, okay? The definition I pulled up, it says the word myth is a traditional story. Okay, so I want you to hear that first. A traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people or explaining a natural or social phenomenon. Okay, it goes on to say, and typically involving potentially supernatural beings or events. Okay, now, you might think to yourself, Samuel, that's crazy. Supernatural beings, events. We don't believe in aliens. Listen. It's a property channel, guys. It's a property channel. So we don't need to get extraterrestrial. But what we do need to get is clear in our understanding. So let me start breaking this stuff down for you so you have a very clear understanding. It says a myth is a traditional story. Now, many human beings tell themselves stories on a day-to-day basis about whether they can or can't get invested in property, about whether they can or they can't make more money from property than they're making from their current income in terms of their job, whether they can or can't have a portfolio of X amount of properties, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 5,000 properties. For example, these traditional stories that you may be telling yourself, you picked up from somewhere. So when we talk about the word myth, I want you to very clearly understand that we're not just talking about, a myth is something that, people made up. No. Sometimes these are stories that have been repeated generation after generation after generation after generation. This is why when I started today's show, I spoke about episode 65, which we did 4 episodes ago, where I broke down in that episode about the next generation of property investing success. And I spoke to you about what we can learn from the next generation, Generation Z, as they're called, but what we also can teach the next generation. And the reason I'm so passionate about this stuff, guys, is because I want you to understand that our next generation is our legacy. Without them, there is none of us. Without them, we do not exist. This is why in certain cultures, they are adamant they have to have a son. Just because they want their name, their surname, as it were, proverbially, to live on. So I want you guys to be rocking with me. I want you to clearly understand exactly what I'm talking about as I'm starting to break these things down. Okay? And those of you who are joining us new, let me know in the chat if you're with me. RTG means ready to go. Let me know if you're ready to go. Side by side with that, Chantel has jumped in with the question of the day, which is, what is your favorite number and why? If you are tuning in and you haven't let us know what is your favorite number and why. We're going to come on to that later on in the show. Now, not only is a myth a traditional story, especially one concerning with the early history of a people or explaining a natural or social phenomenon. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this part of the definition up is because I want you to understand, it says these myths sometimes explain a natural phenomenon. Sometimes they actually explain, it goes further and says sometimes they actually explain social phenomenon. Okay, now there are certain social groups who financially never get invested in property, or financially never succeed in property. Okay, or historically never invest in property, or historically never win in the property game. Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Let me ask you a question. Can I go deep? Let me know if I can go deep. If I get 4 deeps in the chat, I'll go deep. If I get 4 deeps in the chat, I'll actually go deep. And I'll start asking some real questions for you to start understanding how I think sometimes and why I've been not only successful in property, but successfully coaching people, teaching people, training people how to become successful in their own right in property. I'll explain to you, if you give me 4 deeps in the chat, exactly why. And I need 4 different people with the word deep in the chat for me to go that deep. If you're joining us for the first time, like I said, let us know in the chat, write the word hi, and let us know that you're with us. Now, a myth, going back to it, a traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people or explaining a natural or social phenomenon. It goes on to say, and typically involving supernatural beings or events. Let's go into the next definition, because that one's simpler for some of you who need that simplification. The next definition says a widely held but false. You need to write that down. Hope you got your pen in hand. Hope you got your stylus with you. Hope you're ready to take notes on tonight's show. It says a myth is a widely held but false belief or idea. A widely held but false belief or idea. A widely held but false belief and or idea. Why is this important? Let me tell you why it's important. As we break down in today's episode, 3 property myths, 3 big, massive property myths. What we are going to do is we're going to dispel widely held but false beliefs that you may have. And let me tell you something. If we're able to do that, if we're able to remove, or at least even if I can't remove it for you, if you just tuned in now, you might not have heard what I've said previously in the show. But even if we can't remove it for you, if we can at least help you to be aware of potentially widely held but false beliefs that you may have about property, that in and of itself will massively help you to become more successful in your property journey. If I'm right, let me see the word right in the chat. If I am right, let me see just the word right in the chat. If I'm correct, that just helping you become more aware of some false beliefs you may have will help you in your property investing journey, let me know by seeing the word right in the chat. Now look, thank you, Chantel. Now look, let me ask this question, guys. Let me ask this question. Simple question. Okay? Simple question. Hope you're ready for this question. The question I'm going to ask you is this. What does the year 2020, what does the year 2008, what does the year 1990 and the year 1873 have in common? Okay? Let's see if we've got any historical scholars on the stream today. What do those 4 years have in common? 2020, 2008, 1990, and 1873. What do those 4 years have in common? Okay. I'm interested to see if you guys can pick up what I'm about to put down in today's show. Okay. So we've got the 4 years. We've got 2020, which was last year. We've got 2008. We've got 1990 and we've got 1873. And my question to you is, what do those 4 years have in common? Because this is going to help us as we navigate through this and start to identify what these years have in common. This is going to help us to dispel myth number 1. We're shooting at myth number 1 already. Let's see if we can get myth number 1 targeted straight away. What do those 4 years have in common, guys? 2020, 2008, 1990, and 1873. Let me know if you know the answer to that question. What do those years have in common? Okay, because there are multiple people, all right, who don't realize myth number 1, and this is going to help us understand myth number 1. So we can change things for our family tree. We can make sure that we are not the same people doing the same thing that everyone else is doing and hoping we win. Let me tell you something. You can't hope to win doing the same thing that everybody else does. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Guys, I'm just trying to be nice. You can't win in your property journey doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. Chantel's put an answer in the chat. Thank you, Chantel. Chantel says, oh my gosh, has she got it a hole in one? Let me know, guys. Let me know. Top question for today's show. What's your favorite number and why? Chantel's already told us her favorite number is 8 and she's told us why. Second question, what do the years 2020, 2008, 1990 and 1873 have in common? So let's see. Chantel says there was a crisis that affected property, but she puts a question mark, so she's not sure. We need some certainty, guys. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Thank you for your comment, Chantel. I appreciate it. But guys, let me know in the comment. What do these 4 years have in common? 2020, 2008, 1990, and 1873. What do these 4 years have in common? Because what these 4 years have in common opened the door to help us understand exactly what myth number 1 is. And we are going to shoot myth number 1 out of the water. We are going to annihilate myth number 1 from your life, from my life. It's already been killed in my life, but we're going to eradicate this myth so you will be able to move further faster in your property investing journey, because you're going to understand, no, myth number one is not going to hold me down. Myth number one is not going to hold me back. Myth number one will not be the reason that I don't invest more successfully in property. Let me know in the chat, guys. Let me know in the chat. What do these 4 years have in common? Now, for those of you who are watching on a replay, link in the description. I'm going to put a link in the description which clearly articulates what all 4 of these years have in common, and a number of other years which you may not have even been aware of. Now, let me tell you guys a little story whilst I wait for you guys to let me know what these years have in common. And guys, don't be afraid to guess. Chantel gave a very, very good answer. She might actually be right, but just by virtue of the fact that she put a question mark, she showed a level of uncertainty. We're not going to jump on that straight away. So guys, let me know why you think, or what you think these 4 years have in common. Let's go further. I'm going to tell you guys a little story to help you guys understand exactly how deep myth number one is. So I've got a friend, a contact of mine, and this gentleman is effectively famous. You might as well call him famous, okay? And the thing with this guy is, the 1 or 2 times we bring up property, okay, I hope you're hearing this. The 1 or 2 times we bring up property, he says to me, Samuel, I don't want to talk about property. And the first time we had a conversation about property and he basically said to me, I don't want to talk about property, I was like, why does he not want to talk about property? Everybody wants to talk about property. Everybody lives in a property. Property is connected to everyone. Everyone's connected to property. That was my thought process. That was my thinking. Okay. That makes sense, right? And one day, I sat down with this contact of mine and I said to him, what's the property thing? Like, why don't you like speaking about property? Why is it whenever property comes up in a conversation, whether it's started by me or someone else, you always want to edge out of that conversation? And he told me the story. Powerful. Okay. Now, this contact of mine is from Ghana. Natively, his family's from Ghana. He came to the UK when he was quite young. And he says to me, he says, when his parents came here, his parents had some good jobs. And because they had some good jobs, they made some good money. And because they made some good money, they did what most African and Caribbean migrants to the UK did. They started to buy property. And they didn't just buy one property. They bought 2 properties. And these were 2 properties outside, external from the property where they actually lived. Okay, so I can't remember if he said that they actually owned their own home, but I definitely know he said they had 2 investment properties, 2 purchased investment properties, 2 properties where tenants were supposed to pay them rent every single month. Okay, hope you're listening to this because this is quite important. So my contact then says to me, I said, okay, cool. So tell me what happened. He said, listen, they had tenants. And at the time he was fairly young. He was probably about 15, 16. And he said what he used to do is he would help them manage the tenants, you know, make the phone calls, speak to the tenants, help the tenants with little things, whatever, go with his dad to, you know, to whatever, put up curtains, fix taps, etc. if need be. Okay. He was in the family business, put it that way. And long story short, his parents ended up having some bad tenants. Okay, if anyone's ever experienced bad tenants, let me just see BT in the chat. BT, okay, not for British Telecom, but BT for bad tenants. So his parents, who had 2 investment properties, basically ended up with bad tenants. Not one bad tenant or one set of bad tenants, but 2 sets of bad tenants. In both of those properties, they ended up with bad tenants. Now, as a byproduct of the bad tenants that had moved into the 2 properties, okay, I'm going in now, guys. I hope you're hearing this. As a byproduct of the parents having bad tenants, they were unable to pay their mortgage for a number of months. Now, the moment that happened, okay, they lost all interest in property. Not only did they lose all interest in property, they just started to backtrack, you know, get out of property. You know, they were nearly repossessed. That was one of the things that happened to them as well. They were nearly repossessed. Okay. And then side by side with nearly being repossessed, they basically said, you know what, property is not for them. Property is not what they thought it was. And obviously, you could probably imagine what they did next. Okay, everybody probably knows what they did next. What do you think they did next? Let me know in the chat. What do you think they did next? Let me know in the chat. But long story short, from them having these bad tenants, from them realizing, you know what, this might not be working for us the way we thought or planned or intended this to work for us on a property level, what they basically did is they sold up. They sold up. They got rid of the house. They got rid of the property. They said, you know what? Property is not for them. Now, here it goes. Bonus. Chantel was absolutely right. Chantel said it again. Sold their properties. And Chantel was absolutely right earlier on when she said there was a crisis which affected property. And like I said, I'm going to put a link in the description of this video. So if you're watching on a replay or if you're with us live, you should hopefully be able to see that link at some point in the future. But guys, what I want you to understand is all of those years that I mentioned, 2020, 2008, 1990, as well as 1873, all 4 of those years are years which benchmark and are recognized. Okay, you can search on Wikipedia. They're recognized as years where basically there were registered recessions which had an effect on property. Now the question is, why is it important to understand that there have been recessions in the past? Why is it important to understand the story I shared with you about my contact and how his parents who immigrated from Ghana after buying 2 properties for investment purposes ended up with bad tenants, and from having bad tenants sold their properties? Why is it important for me to be sharing all of this stuff with you? I'm going to tell you why it's important. It's important because of myth number 1. What is myth number 1 of the 3 big property myths which are keeping people poor, which are helping people lose money, which are keeping people out of property? Myth number 1 is you can't go wrong with property. You need to write that down. Myth number 1 is you can't go wrong with property. That's the first myth that many people believe, which is keeping people poor in the property sector, which is keeping people poor in the property field. You can't go wrong with property. Let me tell you something, guys. Ask the people who were negatively affected in 2020, who you're not going to really hear about until 2022, maybe 2023. I've been sharing with you about these people throughout maybe each of these 69 episodes of our live show that we've been doing. I've been showing you guys articles, news articles, etc., basically highlighting the people that are going through a very challenging time because they've bought property for way too much than they should have, etc., etc. But that's all happening because of exactly what we're talking about here, because in 2020, in 2008, in 1990, in 1873, and a number of other years, in multiple time periods in our history as human beings, within the UK alone, there have been property recessions, there have been financial recessions, there have been health epidemic recessions, which have a knock-on effect on the property market. So the first big myth that you need to write down, the first big myth you need to be aware of, the first big myth that you should not allow people to let go over your head is you can't go wrong in property. If you're getting value, hit that like button, press subscribe, and consider hitting the bell notification. Listen, guys, you can go wrong with property. Myth number 2 is going to talk exactly about why this is so important, what I'm talking about. But the first myth we need to understand is you can go wrong in property. And any person who has an old school mum and dad or an old school auntie and uncle who comes around and says, hey, listen, niece, you can't go wrong with property. Hey, listen, uncle, you can't go wrong with property. Hey, you see, that whole community conversation and story, you can't go wrong with property. Let me tell you something. It's the wrong conversation. It's a myth. Okay? Because what that myth does is it makes people think that property is the indestructible, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world when it comes to making money. And if I can just save enough money to buy my first house, I'll be set. But what you find is so many people buy their first house and end up being repossessed. So many people buy their first house and second house, their investment property, and end up being repossessed. So many people think property is the way and end up in a completely different position. Let me know if I'm speaking truth. If I'm speaking truth, let me see the word truth in the chat. If you understand and identify with what I'm talking about, if you know somebody who's been negatively affected by their property investment, let me see. Hello, somebody. Let me hear truth in the chat. Let me see the word truth in the chat. Because guys, it's that simple. You can go wrong in property. I'm not here to lie to you guys. And unfortunately, that is the problem sometimes when we have myths, when we have adages, when we have stories that have gone from generation to generation telling us you can't go wrong with property, telling us property is the way, the truth. And like, listen, let me tell you something. You can go wrong with property. Myth number one is you can't go wrong with property. I'm here to tell you that's a myth. You can go wrong with property. And the best thing for you to do is understand the market, understand how property works so you don't go wrong with property. Now, let me tell you something. Property as a sector has a lot of success stories. I'll say that one more time for those of you who did not hear that. Maybe for those of you who are sitting at the back, let me tell you properly. Property as a sector has many success stories. Hopefully you understand exactly what I just put down, guys. As a sector, property has a myriad of success stories. It has so many success stories. Property as a sector probably has more success stories than any other sector. Okay? And the reason why is because there's so many ways to get into property. But even though there are so many ways to get into property, even though property as a sector has so many success stories, don't believe the hype, don't believe the myth that you can't go wrong with property, because it is a hype, it is a myth to believe you can't go wrong with property, because I'm here to tell you, you can go wrong in property. Hashtag ask anybody from 2008 who didn't make it out with their property. Ask anybody from 1990 who didn't make it out with their property. Ask anybody from 2020 who didn't make it out with their property. Ask anybody from 1873 who you might not be able to find anymore, but who didn't make it out with their property. Myth number one, you can't go wrong with property. Unfortunately, you can. Let me go deeper. Okay? Who liked maths in school? Let me know. Let me see a Y in the chat if you liked maths in school. Let me see an N in the chat if you didn't like math in school. If you didn't like the subject of math in school, let me know in the chat. Y means yes, I like maths in school. N means no, I didn't like maths in school. Let me know in the chat, guys. Let me know in the chat, okay? Because the reason I ask is very, very powerful. And it relates to the question I asked earlier. What's your favorite number and why? I got KTR in the chat. She says, higher KTR. KTR, you've missed a couple questions, but the first question was, what is your favorite number and why? Let us know in the chat, KTR. What is your favorite number and why? Listen, guys, I want to share this with you. Okay, I want to share this with you. And listen, I'm not here to judge. Let me say that. Let me say that. I love you guys enough to not judge you. I'm not here to judge, guys. So if your answer is no, like KTR, and no, like Chantel, that's okay. All right. I'm not here to judge. It doesn't matter if you didn't like maths in school or you did like maths in school, but this is going to become very relevant as we go forward in today's show. KTR says 7. It's God's number. I love that, KTR. Thank you for sharing that. I've got Cheryl in the chat. Cheryl says, no, she didn't like maths in school. Cheryl, let me know the same question I asked KTR. It's the question of today's show. What is your favorite number, Cheryl, and why? What is your favorite number and why? Listen, guys, I want you to understand this, okay? I want you to understand where I'm going, because we've just dispelled myth number 1, but we have to get into myth number 2. And I want you to get myth number 2 with a vengeance, because myth number 2 is the myth that stops most people from making money in property. It's actually the myth that helps people lose more money in property than even making money. Because there's two paradigms when it comes to wealth. There's making money and there's losing money. I hope you understand that. If somebody understands what I'm saying, just see the word. Let me see the letter U in the chat for understand. If somebody understands what I'm saying, let me see the letter U in the chat for understand. You see, wealth is not a one-sided game. Wealth is not just about making money. Let me tell you something. When I was very young, I made a lot of money. Before I was even 18, I made a lot of money. Doing the wrong thing, might I add. But I made a lot of money. But wealth is not just about making money. There is the making money aspect and there is the prevention of the losing money aspect. Those of you who were on the stream a couple of weeks ago, I spoke about the fact that offense is business. Business is offense. Business is when we go out and we make more money. But saving, investment, these acronyms, these endeavors, they are defense. How do you defend your wealth? Do you spend everything you make on liabilities and thus your defenses are weak and low. And because your defenses are weak and low, it's only a matter of time before the drip, 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 drip of all of your wealth has exasperated and no longer exists. Let me know, guys. I've got the U's in the chat. People understand what I'm putting down. Cheryl, let us know what's your favorite number and why. Listen, guys, I want you to understand this because it's very, very important you understand this as we deep dive into myth number 2. So myth number 1 was you can't go wrong with property. And I shared with you guys that myth is keeping a lot of people put. You can go wrong with property. So you need to understand what you're doing in property in order so you don't go wrong with property. So I just asked the question, and the question was quite simple. Did you like math in school? And every single person, it seems, who's answered so far has said no. Okay? Every single person who's answered so far, it looks like they said no. All right? Now, hopefully you guys are ready to go because I'm about to go in. Okay? I'm about to go in. And I did say earlier, guys, you might have missed this if you just tuned in. If I get 4 deeps in the chat, I will go deep by asking some real deep questions which will help you on your property journey. But let's jump into this right now. Every single person on the stream so far, those of you who are watching on the replay, let us know in the chat, did you like math when you were in school? I'm not here to judge if it's a yes or a no, but let us know in the chat. Samuel, I didn't like math when I was in school. Or Samuel, I did like math when I was in school. And maybe tell us why if you're watching on a replay. Now, let's go into myth number 2. All right. And I'm going to share with you myth number 2 by being very, very transparent with you and teaching you something that I used to do. And I used to teach teachers to do this in order to improve the ability and the skill of their students when they used to teach math in schools. Okay. Because this is going to help you on your property journey. KTR says in the chat, 7 is her favorite number because it's God's number. Chantel says in the chat, 8 is her favorite number because it's an even number and it's brought her luck in the past. Let me share this with you guys. When I used to teach A-level maths, secondary maths, and I used to teach teachers how to teach. When I used to work in a conventional JOB, one of the first strategies, tactics I would have is I'd say to the children, if you're going to be in my class, which they didn't have a choice about, I hope you understand that. If you're going to be in my class, you have to have a favorite number. And guys, if you're watching this and you don't have a favorite number, just put IDK in the chat. For those of you who are my age or above and you don't know what IDK stands for, it stands for I don't know. Okay, I don't know. All right, we had a stream the other day. We had Nicola from FP Comms on the stream. She said she didn't know what IDK stood for, but I was giving her the equipping. So guys, if you're tuned in and you don't know what IDK stands for, it stands for I don't know. That's what the youth are using now. So if you don't have a favorite number, just put the IDK in the chat. And those of you who are tuned in who do have a favorite number, if you haven't told us, let us know in the chat, please. We want to know in the chat what's your favorite number and why. So put it right here. What's your favorite number and why? Okay, Cheryl responds and lets us know that she doesn't have a favorite number. Awesome. Okay, that's awesome. Now let me start breaking this down now because I want you guys to get this value. The first strategy and tactic that I would declare and share with all students that were new to my class when I used to work full time as a teacher, as I used to teach A-level maths, used to teach secondary maths. I used to be a teacher trainer, lead practitioner. I used to teach teachers how to teach. And the first thing I would teach teachers who are teaching maths, who are going into a maths career, and the first thing I would teach my students if they were coming into my classroom is I'd say to them, if you're going to be in my class, you have to have a favorite number. So Cheryl, get yourself a favorite number so you can be in the live show. You see, there's a method to that madness. Let me break it down. One of the things I learned was that when a person has a favorite number, they start to remember facts about that number quicker, faster, and more readily than any other number. Okay, so I know quite a few facts. My favorite number, similar to KTR, my favorite number is 7. It's the number 7. And the funniest thing is I know 7 times 7 is equal to 49. Now, do I just know that because I'm a maths teacher or I qualified as a maths teacher and I've got experience as a maths teacher and I used to teach teachers how to teach? Is that the reason I know that? No, no, no. I know that because I've memorized it. But one of the reasons I memorized it so early, so quick is because it was a favorite number of mine. So by virtue of that number being a favorite number of mine, I started to learn facts about that number very quickly. Someone tell me in the chat if they understand what I'm talking about. Let me see a you in the chat if you understand what I'm talking about. If you've got a favorite number, and just by virtue of the fact that you've got a favorite number, you know a few things or you notice a few things about the number 7 that other people don't necessarily notice, or about the number 8 that other people don't necessarily always notice, let me know by putting a U in the chat. Now, why is this relevant, Samuel? What's this got to do with property and the myths? And let me break it down to you. You see, when you've got a good teacher knows what you need in order for you to get success in their subject. You see, when I was in education, when I was teaching in schools, I'd like to think I was a good teacher. I must have been a good teacher because I became a lead practitioner and I was actually asked to teach other teachers in the schools that I worked in how to teach. So I must have been a good teacher by the school standards. And I know I was a good teacher by the student standards. So check this out. A great teacher recognizes your potential, but recognizes your potential alone will not get you success in this field. You see, there are gifted mathematicians who their potential alone will not get them success in the field of maths. Just like property, just like you, just like I. There are people like you and I who are smart enough, wise enough, sharp enough, strong enough to succeed in property, but your potential alone will not allow you to succeed in property. Why is this important? This is why it's important. A good teacher recognizes that you are going to have to learn a lot of things. Not one thing, not two things, not three things, not four things, but a lot of things. So because a good teacher recognizes you're going to need to learn a lot of things, what a good teacher does is they implement strategies from day one to help you keep learning potentially for the rest of your life. So what's myth number 2, Samuel? I hear you asking. Myth number 2 is the exact reason why I used to ask every student in my class to have a favorite number. Myth number 2 is the exact reason why I'm grateful that I chose to have a favorite number when I was younger, because it helped me remember facts. 7 cubed, which means 7 times 7 times 7 is equal to 343. I remember these facts because 7 is my favorite number. The reason I'm so pumped, and the reason I used to do this with children, and I now do this with adults, even my coaching clients, there's certain strategies I employ from day one when I take on a coaching client to help them get through this myth, is because myth number 2 is my education ended when I finished school. That's myth number 2. Myth number 2, which many people believe, which stop many people from making more money in their property journey, and even worse, helps people lose lots of money on their property journey, is the fact that they believe that their education ended when they left school. Let me tell you something, guys. If you are not a lifelong learner, you are guaranteed to lose. Okay, I'll say that again. If you are not a lifelong learner, you are guaranteed to lose. You see, why do I have books in my desk right next to me, ready to just devour a page and another page and another page, and books that I've read sometimes right next to me so I can reread them and devour another page and another page and another page and another page? Why do I keep resources, books, CDs, programs next to me? I've just signed up. Let me even share this with you guys, because some of you don't understand how much Samuel IcanWin invested in himself. I've just signed up for a £30,000 coaching program. Okay, I'm not the coach on that program. I'm the participant on that program. I've just signed up for a £30,000 program. Okay, to teach me more, to help me more, so I can learn more. Guys, I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Let me see an I understand in the chat if you understand what I'm talking about. Guys, let me tell you something. The reason Samuel IcanWin would part with £30,000 to go on a coaching program is because Samuel IcanWin understands myth number 2 and will never, ever, ever again allow myth number 2 to take my money or to stop me from making more money. You see, myth number 2, the fallacy that your education ends when you leave school, I'm telling you, is probably the worst myth. It might be. I don't know if myth number 3. I don't know. Myth number 3 is actually a very good contender. But I want you to understand that myth number 2 has so many people lost, so many people losing, so many people not having the wealth they're supposed to have because they believe their education ended when they finished school. They believe, you know what, they got a degree. They legit, let me tell you something. After you finish conventional education, if you want my opinion, that's when your real education starts. I'm going to say that again for those of you who want to write that down. After you finish conventional education, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, that's when your real education actually starts. Most people don't know that. Most people don't think about that, but that's the reality. After you finish conventional education, that's when your real education actually starts. You see, ladies and gentlemen, as you're tuning into this live stream, what I want you to understand is you don't have to be the person who is robbed. And I'm using that word. I know it's a strong word, but I want to use that word because I think that word's the right word. I think it's fitting. You don't have to be a person who is robbed by believing that your education ended when you left school. Let me tell you something, guys. It's only just begun. I'll say that one more time. It's only just begun. Now, guys, if you are getting value from this live stream and you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to our channel and you know this is the place to be, hit that subscribe button. You can use the little blue icon, the see-through blue icon, which says YouTube subscribe on the screen right now. Hit that button, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to let us help you become better at your property investing journey, what you should do is the next thing, press the bell notification. So every single time we drop content, you can be notified. And guys, let me tell you something. We got a whole sequence of content that is getting trained up, prepared up, and ready to drop on our viewers because we just want to take people to the next level. We just got there. We just got there now. Okay. And even deeper, last episode 68, I asked you guys, would you like me to produce a masterclass for you where I show you guys how you can win the same way I'm going to be winning in property throughout Q3 and Q4 of this year? You guys said you wanted it in the last episode, so we're going to be doing that at the end of this month. You are going to get a live masterclass from Samuel IcanWin this month. This month right here, the end of this month, I'm going to be putting on a masterclass where I'm going to break down to you guys exactly how I'm going to be winning in Q3 and Q4 of 2021. So if you want to be a part of that, email the team, info@impactproperties.co.uk. Let them know, listen, I need a seat on that masterclass. Now, for those of you who do not know, we give you this free resource absolutely free. This is the Sourcing Blueprint ebook. You can go to the link impactproperties.co.uk/sourcing blueprint or the link on the screen, sourcingblueprint.com, and go and get yourself a free ebook. In this ebook, I will break down not one, not two, not three, but the 4 key things you need to learn in order for you to successfully make money from property investing. Now, let me tell you something. The 4 keys I break down in this blueprint right here is the 4 keys that I have used to have all of the property success I've had. But side by side with that is also the same 4 keys that I coach, teach, and train any single person I work with in order for them to get the exact, if not better, property investing success. So guys, I want to encourage you, go get this resource right now. And now let's jump back into myths that are keeping people poor as it pertains to property. Now, with those things said, I hope you guys are ready. Okay. And let me even just say this, a great big thank you to all of you guys, okay, who reach out to me and let me know when you're winning. Okay, because I'm always pumped. I'm always exhilarated to see people send me WhatsApp messages, LinkedIn recommendations, Facebook posts. Guys, I get it all. I get it all. And I'm grateful. Because when people send me pictures of them standing outside of the sell sign, the for sale sign board, which I've shown on the show, multiple episodes. When people send me those messages, Samuel, I listened to your live show and I went out there and I did what you said and I just got these results. Guys, it's always encouraging. It's the reason we have this show. Okay? So guys, let me know. As you're winning, let me know. But more importantly, thank you to every single person who has let me know when they're winning. Those of you who have donated to the channel, we've got a number of people who donate to the channel through the link impactproperties.co.uk/donation. We appreciate you. Those of you who have bought things from our Amazon wish list through means of the link impactproperties.co.uk/studio build, we appreciate you. Those of you who are supporting the studio build in any way, shape or form, we appreciate you. And equally, those people who have subscribed to the channel, we appreciate you. Those who write comments on the videos, those who jump onto the videos and hit the like button, we appreciate you. Now, if you are someone who's potentially interested in grabbing the key resource, let me start there because I think that's helpful. If you're interested in grabbing the key resource from today's show, the Sourcing Blueprint ebook, and or if you're interested in supporting the channel in any way, shape or form through means of donation, feel free to go through to the links that are going to be in the chat for those of you who are with us live, and you can utilize those links in order to help our channel develop and become exactly what we are working towards. Okay, so I'm going to get the team, I'll put one of the links in if I can as well. I'm going to get the team to basically throw some of the links in there. The free ebook link for the Sourcing Blueprint is definitely in the chat right now. And those of you who are interested in supporting and helping the development of the studio build, we will throw that link in the chat right now before we jump into myth number 3. And guys, I hope you've buckled your seat, but I hope you're ready for myth number 3. Myth number 3. All right. Now, favorite numbers. All right. We all had favorite numbers earlier on. Cheryl said she didn't know what her favorite number was. Okay. How do those who believe in the last 2 myths, okay, those who believe that you can't go wrong in property, or those who believe their education ended when school ended, how do those people approach property? That's a question I want to ask you. Let me know in the chat. Okay, if you're someone who believes you can't go wrong with property, if you're someone who believes your education ended when school was out, how do you think you will approach property? Let me know. I'm interested in finding out your thoughts. How does someone approach property who believes in the myths that we've just shared? Okay, here we go. I love this. Okay, let me know, guys. Let me know in the chat. How does someone approach property who believes the 2 myths that we've just spoken about? Let me even ask this question. Is that person serious? We got Chantel in the chat. She says overly confident. Love that. Guys, is that person even serious when they go into property? Let me tell you something. Someone who's overly confident is not serious. Okay, I can tell you that simply. If someone's overly confident, they're not serious. You don't need to be overly confident, and you equally don't need to be overly cautious, but you do need to be serious. Someone who goes into investing in property overly confident is not a serious person. Okay? KTR says, what is the first myth? Chantel, let us know. Do you know? Can you throw it in the chat, Chantel? What is the first myth? What was the first myth? What was myth number 1? Okay, let's see if our community can help each other in the chat. So, someone who is overly confident, someone who believes, okay, myth number 1, or someone who believes myth number 2, okay, that kind of a person, I guarantee you, is not winning when it comes to property. Even if it looks like they're winning for a week, even if it looks like they're winning for a day, they're not winning. Okay? Myth number one, Chantel's put it in the chat. Myth number one, I'll put it on the screen. Myth number one is you can't go wrong with property. KTR, put myth number two in the chat for us. Myth number one was you can't go wrong with property. And what I broke down is you can go wrong with property. Okay? You can buy a lemon. You can buy a property that doesn't make you money every month, that loses you money every month. You can buy a property in the wrong area and end up with the worst tenants just because that's standard in that area, and then be losing money every month that way. Okay? So KTR, let us know in the chat, what was myth number two, KTR? Myth number one was you can't go wrong with property. Okay? So my question was, if somebody believes myth number one, you can't go wrong with property. If someone believes what KTR's thrown in the chat, myth number two, education stops after you finish school, or education stops when school stops, okay? Because it doesn't. Education is lifelong. You have to be educating yourself. You have to be developing yourself, whether it's books, whether it's resources, courses, training, support, coaching. You've got to develop yourself. That's just the way the world works. Every elite athlete. Let me even tell you this. This is what's so funny. If you find an elite athlete who doesn't have a coach, their career's usually going downhill. I'm just going to make it simple for you. Elite athletes always tend to have a coach keeping them elite. Let me put it that way. Okay? Because I know you guys understand it when I put it that way. Elite athletes always tend to have a coach who are keeping them elite. Okay? That's the part of having a coach. That's part of the power. Part of the power of having someone in your corner who can see moves you're making when you don't even see how you make those moves. Part of that is keeping you elite. You see, I'm going to share this with you because the Bible gives us the key to this. The Bible says something very powerful. It says, in the multitude, this is in the book of Proverbs, for those of you Bible scholars, maybe if there's a Bible scholar in the chat, you can go find out the verse and chapter and throw it in the chat. The Bible says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Let me tell you something. If you are an elite athlete, if you are a high caliber individual, if you are an elite athlete, and you want to be safe at the top of your game, you need a coach. You need multiple counselors. That's what that verse in the Bible is saying. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. You see, what people don't realize is you want to stock up on your counselors. What most people do is they get counseled by school teachers, leave school, and have no counselors ever again. Listen, guys, that is a recipe for disaster. I'm going to say that one more time. What most people do is they get counseled by teachers in school, teachers who don't even have the credentials to counsel you for where you want to go. You want to go to financial freedom. So why are you being counseled by a teacher who's struggling to pay their bills? But it's okay. Let's not get personal. You leave school believing myth number two, that your education stops when school stops. Let me tell you the problem with that. The problem with that is education is still going on. And if you stop educating yourself when school stops, all you do is handicap yourself in the race of life. And what you need to do is equip yourself in the race of life so you can win in property day one, win in property day two, win in property day three, and so on and so on. That's why we tell you that this is the channel where you get creative property investing on demand. That's why we tell you that this channel was created to help you move further, faster in your property investing journey, because we understand how we can take away the handicap that many people have created for themselves by believing myth number one. Many people have created that handicap by believing that they can't go wrong with property. I shared with you guys earlier, what do the years 2020, what do the years 2008, what do the years 1990 and the year 1873 have in common? All four of those years have one thing in common. They were all years of recession within the UK. Why is this relevant? It's relevant because it's evidence historically that you can go wrong with property. So myth number one, guys, let me tell you something. You can go wrong with property. Make sure you're not one of the wrong uns, as they say in the UK. I got my man Zeke Diligence in the chat. Bible scholar says Proverbs 11 verse 14 is where it's at. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Listen, guys, I want you to understand this because it's a very simple thing. It's a very, very simple thing. Myth number one, you can go wrong with property, even though people believe you can't go wrong with property. Myth number two, school is not the end of your education. If anything, when you leave school, when you leave your degree, when you leave your master's, when you leave your PhD, your doctorate, your ED, whatever you got, I'm telling you, your educational journey has only just begun. Why am I saying that? This is why I'm saying it. Because myth number two is believed by so many people. There are so many people who believe, you know what? I've got my degree. I'm good. I don't need to get educated anymore. And they use their degree as a benchmark to puff their chest over someone else. Let me tell you something. There are people with no degrees with way more wealth than you. There are people with no degrees with way more properties than you. There are people with no degrees whose financial future is set up not just for them, but for their children and their children's children. So tell me if degrees are the pre-qualification for generational wealth. Someone tell me that, please. Someone. I want to know. I want to know. How do we get to a place? How do we actually, the third myth is going to reveal it all. So let's jump into the third myth. The question I was going to ask is, how do we get to a place where we live in a world, we live in a society where we actually believe, that primary school, secondary school, college and university and, additional university in terms of graduate classes, graduate education. How do we get to a place where we actually believe that these are the adequate prerequisites for us to build wealth? Okay, I'm very interested. I'm very interested in knowing your thoughts. I believe we just got disconnected, so I apologize, guys, if you missed anything. But let me know what your thoughts are on this. If you're watching me live, let me know what your thoughts are on this. How did we get into a world where we believe that degrees, that these kind of things are the prerequisites to building wealth? How did we get to that place? How did we get to a place where we started to believe that's how? If you're watching on a replay, let me know in the comments below. How did we get to a society where we believe that a degree, a master's, a PhD, a secondary school education, how did we start to believe that these are the prerequisites to build wealth? How? Just let me know, because I don't know, but I want to know. I want to know how we got to this place, especially when on a daily basis we have contrary evidence thrown in our face. On a daily basis, we have people becoming billionaires, millionaires who have never gone to school, who dropped out of school. Please let me know, how did we get to this place? I'm very interested in understanding how we got to this place from where we were. I'm just interested, guys. That's why I share what I share. Guys, like I said, if you're getting value, hit that like, press subscribe, hit the bell. How did we get to that place? Because I'm keenly interested. Ha ha ha. Here we go. KTR is bringing the fire in the chat. Let me share this with you, family. KTR says it's the way the system is built. The brainwashing takes place. Guys, I don't want to be someone teaching you how to stay lost. I'm going to say that one more time. I want you guys to write that down. Samuel doesn't want to be teaching you. He doesn't want to be someone teaching you how to stay lost. I want to teach you how to get found. Let's go into myth number 3. Chantel says people follow the high class. It trickles down to middle and lower classes and becomes a norm. And like you said, a benchmark for people to puff up their chest. Thank you ever so much. Powerful statement. Guys, again, if you're watching on a replay, let us know in the comments below. How did we get to this place? Chantel shared her view. KTR shared her view. How did we get to this place? Guys, I'm genuinely interested. I would love to know your thoughts. Now, with that being said, we got myth number 3 to bust up. So let's bust up myth number 3. If you're with me, let me see in the chat. I'm with you, Samuel. Let me see in the chat. I'm with you, Samuel. If you are with me, I'm about to go in for myth number 3. Let me see in the chat if you are with me. Myth number 3. So I asked the question earlier. How does someone who genuinely believes what we've shared as myth number 1 and myth number 2, how do they operate in property? How do they face property? How do they deal with property? How do they assert themselves in the world of property? Someone who genuinely believes what we've just spoken about, how do they engage in the property world? Very powerful, pertinent, but relevant question. How does someone who sees property as though I can't go wrong, someone who says I've got all my education, I've finished school, someone who believes myth 1 and myth 2, how do they engage with property? KTR says, I'm with you. Chantel says, I'm with you, Samuel. Also, Kimwin in the chat says, all the way. Let's jump in. Let me tell you something very simply, family. You see, Chantel said it earlier. The person who believes myth number 1 and myth number 2, they go in overconfident. They go in overconfident. But let me tell you something. They come out not very confident. The person who believes myth number 1 and myth number 2, which is most people in our society, they think they know what they're doing. So they attack the market. But then they either learn they don't know what they're doing, or in some cases, they don't even learn they don't know what they're doing, but they end up in predicaments which proves to them that they don't know what they're doing. And when they end up in those predicaments, do you know what happens? They get out. They get out. So I'm going to share something with you guys so you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you, KTR. I agree with your comment. You see, in the year 2020, lockdown in the UK was announced for the very first time in March of 2020. When lockdown was announced in March of 2020, we had a number of students. I had consulting clients, coaching clients, and students. Okay, 3 different categories of people that work with me in different ways. I had consulting clients, coaching clients, and students reach out to me with their problems, with their questions. Samuel, I need help with this, I need help with that, etc. One of my students, one particular student, remember this like it was yesterday, jumped on a call with me and says to me, Samuel, this is what I'm facing and this is what I need help with. Long story short, the student says to me, look, you guys, get closer, get closer. The student says to me, Samuel, this is what I'm dealing with. Samuel, this is what I'm going through. Samuel, I don't know if I'm going to be able to win. I've just signed up as one of your students, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to win because we've just been told to lock down. Now, I analyze the market. That's one of the things I do. You guys do that with me sometimes when we jump on the live show. And I said to this student, this is probably April of 2020. I said to this student something simple. I said, listen, I said, you're going to hear a lot of mixed messages over the next couple of months. And most people are going to tell you, don't invest in property now. And I said to this student, I said, listen, now is your time. I said, I guarantee you, if you implement the strategies that I've shared with you, over the next few months, you're going to start to get your first few deals. And this student, this is why I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled at times, because sometimes you get students, even though we have application processes and all of that, sometimes you get students who just don't listen. And sometimes, most of the time, you get these students who are just fire. They're just gonna crack on and get it done. So this particular student did exactly what I told him to do. And let me tell you what happened. He got a purchase lease option as his first ever property deal. Okay. Now, those of you who know what a purchase lease option is, you know, you know how many people you know get a purchase lease option as their first ever property deal. He got a purchase lease option as his first ever property deal. 6-bedroom HMO purchase lease option first deal. Okay. That's That's not even everything. That's just the crumb. That's the first crumb. He kept going. I told him, look, keep going. I said, look, you're winning. Just keep going. This is going to get better for you. Because what's happening right now, you don't realize it, but what's happening right now is people who don't know what they're doing, coming back to what we're talking about, episode 69, people who are believing myth number 1 and believing myth number 2, they're not active right now. They're not active in March, May, June, July, August, September of 2020. They're not active. They are sitting at home wondering what's happening in the property sector. Let me tell you something. I can tell you as your teacher, because that was my student, this is your time, young man. This is your time. Make it happen for you and your family, for your children. Make it happen now. He goes and gets his first ever deal, lease option. Then from there, he goes and secures not 1, not 2, but 3 more lease options. Now let me go deeper with you. He jumps on a call with me. Okay. I want to keep you guys close because I want you guys to get this. He jumps on a call with me and says to me, look, Samuel, I think I've got another 3 deals coming through, but I don't feel like I've got the money. I don't feel like I've got the money, he says, in order to secure all 3 deals. I say to him, listen, I said, what did you learn on the training? What did you learn on the training? It's a 7-module program. What did you learn throughout the modules? I learned how to raise money. Okay, so you can raise money and take those deals, right? He said, yeah, you know what? You're right. I said, what else did you learn on the program? Tell me what the 7-module program taught you. He said, well, I also learned that I can sell deals that I don't want for myself to other people. I said, so if you learned that, what can you do right now? Let me tell you what the guy does. That's what you want to know, guys, right? Let me know. What do you want to know? Do you want to know what the guy does? Let me see in the chat. What did he do? Let me see in the chat. What did he do? Let me tell you what the guy does. I'm going to sit here and eat some popcorn and wait for you guys to put in the chat. What did he do? I said to the guy, what did you learn on the program? Because it's that simple, guys. Sometimes it's really just that simple. What have you learned? If you understand it's about lifelong education, then the question is, what have you learned? Because we're not relying on secondary school, college, and university education. This is real education. You've been taught about property investing. What did you learn? Do you want to know what the guy done? Let me see in the chat, guys. What did he do? Ask me the question. What did he do? I'll give you the answer. He has been taught not only how to raise finance, he was also taught on that program how to sell deals to qualified investors if he didn't want to keep those deals for himself. So he's in this position. He's in this predicament. He's got 3 new opportunities outside of his first ever purchase lease option. I believe 2 of those 3 were actual additional purchase lease options, and 1 was a rent to rent opportunity. He calls me. He tells me he doesn't know what to do. He tells me he doesn't know how he's going to proceed. I ask him, what did you learn? And he says to me, he learned that he could raise finance. And I said, okay, if you raise finance, what can you do? I can take on one of these deals. Okay, awesome. Then I asked him another question. What else did you learn on the program? He said, Samuel, I learned that I can sell the deals that I don't want. I can sell deals rather than lose them. Maybe you guys don't want to know what he did. Okay. If you guys don't want to know, that's okay. Let's jump into myth number 3. If you guys don't want to know what did he do, let's jump into myth number 3. Myth number 3. Long story short, without telling you what he did, he got results. When everyone was telling him to shut shop, when everyone was telling him, forget about it, it's lockdown, it's not the time, you're new to this market, don't even try to invest. In that climate, oh my gosh, we got the question coming now. In that climate, he didn't get 1, he didn't get 2, he didn't get 3, he got 4 property opportunities. The first one, his first ever property lease option opportunity. I've got it coming in the chat. He did what you said. He did what he learned. Let me put it that way, because I don't, KTR, you're right. He did what I said, but more importantly, he did what he learned. And this is what, and the reason I need to share it like this is because I want you guys to understand that myth number 2 is keeping people poor. Thinking that your school education is all the education you need is keeping people poor. Because it's not about he did what I said. Because let me tell you something, the wrong person could tell you what to do and you could do it. It's not about doing what people are saying. It's doing what you've learned. When you've invested in a program to be a student, let me tell you something, just do what you've been taught and you will succeed if the program is there for you to succeed. So the question's been asked by Chantel. What did he do? Let me tell you what he did. He raised finance to take on the second deal. Straight after raising, so he started with his own purchase lease option. Few months later, ends up with three more opportunities. He raised finance, private finance from other people to take on his second deal. Then from there, he sold the other 2 deals for £4,500 each, which brought in an additional £9,000 to his property business for deals he didn't even take. Let me share with you what myth number 3 is. Myth number 3 is great property deals do not exist. Great property deals do not exist. Someone write that in the chat for me. What's myth number 3, guys? Let me tell you something. Myth number 3, which some people believe, is that great property deals do not exist. Let me tell you something, guys. Great property deals do exist. And I just want you to think for yourself, how do people operate if they believe great property deals don't exist? They don't look for them. They're passive, they're pessimistic, they don't look for them. Let me tell you something. Myth number 3 is that great property deals do not exist. And I don't want you to be that person, guys. I don't want you to be that person who believes that great property deals do not exist. Because if you believe that, you're going to receive that. If you believe that, you're not going to go out and get those great property deals. You're going to be there saying, oh no, they don't exist. Not for people like you, not for people like me. They don't exist. Let me tell you something. Great property deals exist and people take advantage of them every single day. I'll say that one more time. Great property deals exist and there are people taking advantage of them every single day. Let me know in the chat, guys. What is number 3? What is myth number 3? And guys, if you got specific property questions for today's show, all you need to do is share this video on Instagram or Facebook and tag us at Impact Properties London and then put a $sign in front of your question and throw your question in the chat. Guys, I'm telling you, great property deals exist. Okay? And this gentleman was able to not get 1, not get 2, not get 3, but get 4 great property deals. 2 of which he could secure and fund for himself. Okay? 2 of which he ended up having to sell on because of his choice, because of his inability to see, believe maybe that he could raise money for all of those deals. But nonetheless, guys, I just want you to understand great property deals do exist. And you don't need to be the person who can't participate in that. You don't need to be the person who can't have some of that. You don't need to be the person who says to themselves, oh, one day. Listen, one day doesn't need to be your day. Your day should be today. Okay? Your day should be today. And that's just me sharing with you guys because I want to be transparent with you guys. As we put the live show together, as we get things prepared, you know, what always happens is I say to the team, listen, guys, I just want to share with these lot the truth. I want these guys to understand how deep this stuff is. Some people don't want you to understand this stuff, guys. I'm just going to be real with you. Some people won't share with you this level of depth. And that's okay for them. But that's not okay for me. Because I want you to be able to create generational wealth for your next generation in order for you to change your family tree. And the only way we can do that is when you start to understand exactly what we're doing here, exactly what we're breaking down here, exactly what we're showing you here. Guys, this is why they call me your creative property coach, because I'm here to help you. And I want you guys to understand that. I want you guys to use that, utilize that, and take that to the bank. Go and bank that. Go and bank the information, the knowledge, the insights that you've been able to grab on this show in order to move yourself forward in your property investing journey. Now, with all that being said, if you are interested in donating to the channel, thrown a link in the chat for you guys to be able to support the channel with our development and our growth. We have a goal. We are planning to hit 3,000 subscribers, guys. That's close to 10 times the amount of subscribers we currently have. Okay. And the reason why we're trying to do that is because we know there are so many more people in the UK. Even if we just exclude the UK, there are so many more people in the world who need to understand this stuff, who need to be able to be set free from the bondage of finances by understanding how to creatively invest in property. And guys, we're here to help you. Also, I mentioned earlier, guys, we are planning to run a masterclass by the end of this month. If this is something of interest to you, what we'd love for you guys to do is let us know by sending us an email. The email address is in the description of every one of our videos. That's info@impactproperties.co.uk. Now, if you're someone who's new to the channel, this is your first time on a live stream with us, you've never engaged with Samuel IcanWin IcanWin before, you can go and check out our 21 days of your property investing success. We recorded that, or we streamed that live from the 1st to the 21st of January 2021. We started 2021 saying we want thousands of people to learn the stuff I've used in order to become successful in my property journey, and we were giving it all away for free. So for the 21 days of your property investing success from the 1st to the 21st of January 2021, I showed up live every single day in order to give you guys content and value. And that was some powerful sessions. So you can go to the playlist, which I've just thrown in the chat. That's impactproperties.co.uk/day1. And by doing that, you will be able to basically tune in to every single thing we have been doing through that 21-day journey. And guys, I'm telling you, that is going to be extremely powerful for you. Now, let me jump into the chat, see if you guys are saying anything else that I have missed. I don't know if you guys have said anything that I have missed, because you guys have been an awesome audience today. You've been the fantastic audience that we always have on the show. So let me have a quick check, see if there's any comments in here for me. If I've missed anything. Am I actually up to date? Oh my gosh, I'm doing well. All right, guys, it looks like I am fully up to date with our chats. That is actually surprising. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for keeping me up to date with today's show. It looks like I've actually kept up to date with all of the chats. So I'm actually really surprised and impressed about that, guys. Thank you ever so much for that. Now, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, let me share with you that I want to encourage you to go and watch this video right here. It's a short 8-minute video where I break down why you can't sell your property. Now, this video, if you watch this video, take notes and understand what I break down in this video, you're going to put yourself in the best position in order for you to not be someone who falls in line with the people who believe myth number 3 that I spoke about earlier. And the reason you won't believe myth number 3 is because you will understand exactly what I've been sharing with you guys in this episode, that there are great deals still to be had. Side by side with that, if you're watching on a replay or if you're with us live, why don't you end the show by letting us know in the comments or the live chat what key takeaway you had in today's live stream. What's the big thing that you took away from today's show? Let me know in the comments or let me know live so I can catch you on the next one. And as I usually say, remember, small keys open up big doors. Happy investing.